everybody, welcome back to the Figures and Flippy Shit Wrestling Podcast, where we will talk about AEW, WWE, NXT, all that fun stuff. So let's just jump right in. What is our first topic we're going to talk about today?
Well, I think the fact that I completely railed against WWE last week, I need to walk some stuff back.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you haven't seen it by now, which a lot of people have, the press conference that they had in Las Vegas on Thursday was extremely successful.
Yeah.
So many people watched it. It was very positively reviewed.
Yeah.
But basically, I don't know at this point. I don't know that it really matters at this point if WWE pivoted, if this was the plan all along, if this was the plan but they just moved faster because of Backlash. We'll never know. And honestly, I'm okay with that because it seems like the timeline's been restored and it seems like they have the graphic ready and everything. We're getting Roman Cody Mania Roman Cody 2.
Did you even explain what you were talking about, though, about why you got so mad?
I'm getting there.
Oh, I was going to say, you just kind of jumped right into it.
Because we started with The Rock, and they even played into it because Roman came out and said it was his choice, that Cody gave up his choice, and he was choosing The Rock. So then The Rock comes out, and they do this whole family tree, which is actually really interesting to look at when you see like the screenshots of it later.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be kind of cool if somebody could post like the whole thing to be able to look at, because there's a lot of really cool information on there. Like I had no idea that Rock is actually a high chief, and he was declared that by the Samoan King in real life in 2003.
Crazy.
Or 2004. It is crazy. It's really neat.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love that, like, they try to add to the realism to it. And WWE's been doing some things where they add it to look more sports-like. And I think it's working. I like the additions that they've done. But they had Cody come out, and he didn't play his music. He just came out, and the first thing he said was, "This is bullshit," which was hilarious. And so they had a back and forth there. Cody chose Roman, told Rock and Roman that their ancestors would be ashamed of them, which pissed off Rock. Rock slapped Cody. Rollins stepped in. A lot of people have been giving Seth Rollins a lot of smack because they said that him being out there and the story not being about him made him kind of a goober. But I think the fact that he stepped right up to help Cody when Rock slapped him, I think was his purpose out there.
Yeah.
And I think that they've got something nice planned for him because I don't think they would have clowned him like that on purpose if they didn't have something lined up. Mm-hmm. And Rollins deserves it. Rollins took a title that everybody knew was the consolation prize. Hell, during the press conference, Roman kept talking about how it was the consolation prize.
Yeah.
And Rollins has done the best that he could with it. He's had a pretty good reign. I think it'll end at Mania. And
so
I
basically what you're trying to say is, you haven't come out and said this, but basically what you're trying to say is you're apologizing for how upset you got about that segment last week.
I might have gotten a little upset. I wasn't alone. But I should have let Hunter cook. Mm-hmm. I've been one of the people that said let him cook for a while, and I should have let him cook. But was it his cooking? We don't know.
But let's not give credit because we don't even know what happened.
But I am interested to see where we go from here, because Rock and Roman will be back on SmackDown next week, and if The Rock's going to be a regular on TV and he's going to play this heel character that he's playing, I welcome it. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, unless he has to be there and not. I don't like when legends come back and it's like they become involved in a storyline and then they disappear. I don't care that you're a legend. Honestly, I don't care about what you've done in the past. Come and don't be the main attention. Be like the side. So I don't know, but that's always been my thing.
Yeah.
I don't like when the older talent comes back and like.
I think it's a good sign that he's already coming back next week.
Yeah.
I think that's a good sign.
He must not have any movies booked, I guess.
He might not. I don't know. I don't know what his schedule looks like. They might cool off of him because the way he took over the Black Adam project, that might have dealt some blows to his movie prospects. We don't know.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is we have the main event that I would safely say 70% of us wanted. There are still people that are like, Cody belongs nowhere near that. He's a mid-carder for life. You have those people that are still out there, and they're entitled to their opinions. But I'm happy because it feels like the ship has been righted.
I'm happy because every single day you had to talk about Cody Rhodes. I'm very happy that this was righted so you can just stop talking about him for a little bit.
Well, now we'll see if he finishes the story. If this is all for naught and he doesn't finish the story at Mania, I think he's done. So, the Elimination Chamber, it was announced on SmackDown, is a 12... There's 12 qualifying... Or no, there's 12 people trying to qualify in 6 matches. Let's see how many of them I can remember. There is LA Knight, Dominic Mysterio, Drew McIntyre, AJ Styles, Ivar, Bobby Lashley, Bronson Reed, Kevin Owens, Logan Paul, Sami Zayn, Randy Orton. That's 11. And I can't remember the other one. AJ put a graphic.
Did you say Bobby
up there.
Lashley?
I did say Bobby Lashley. So far, we have Drew McIntyre qualified. Drew McIntyre qualified by beating... Shit, who did Drew McIntyre wrestle? AJ Styles on SmackDown.
I was going to say, maybe you should write these down.
I should. That match was really good, too. I can't believe I forgot it. And as soon as they announced that, I was excited for it, because you told me at one point, you were like, you've said 3 times now you think this match will be good.
Yeah, you kept saying it would be a sneaky
good.
And after the 3rd time, I was like, I get it. You think it's going to be sneaky good.
Yeah. We've got, and then later on SmackDown, we had Randy Orton against Sami Zayn. A lot of people were disappointed that Sami Zayn didn't win, but I think with the promos that they've been doing and with Sami with kind of his doomsday thinking, I think that's playing into his story. I think he's going to have something for Mania. He's just had too good of a year not to. I know last year he main evented WrestleMania with Owens, which was great, but I think they've kept Sami relevant enough that they do still have something in the pipeline for him.
Maybe. I kind of feel like he's been MIA for a lot.
I know he took some time off before the Rumble.
Yeah.
Like, I think he requested that time off for family, I think. But yeah, so we have our Elimination Chamber qualifiers there. The women are also doing their qualifying matches. And so far, we've got Bianca Belair. She beat Michin to get in. And Becky Lynch beats Shayna Baszler to get into the Chamber on the women's side. So both Chamber matches are setting up to be pretty good, because the first 2 in each one is Bianca Becky on one side and Drew and Randy on the other. I think these Chamber matches could potentially be amazing. And I like the Elimination Chamber anyway. It's probably my second favorite gimmick match after the Royal Rumble match.
Mine's War Games.
War Games is fun too. It is.
Well, I like War Games if WWE actually doesn't tame it down to like a 2-year-old's level. I like when it's more gritty and more intense.
So you want something that's
in between. I don't want as intense as AEW, because sometimes they go too intensely. Yeah. But I don't like when it's child friendly. So like in between.
You want a happy medium between War Games and Blood and Guts. That's what you want.
Yes.
That's fair. Yeah. But yeah, I think in the Chamber matches, I think Becky's going to win the women's, and I think Drew's going to win the men's. And I think those are both solid choices moving forward. I'm a little surprised that after her Rumble appearance that Jade Cargill wasn't on TV this week.
I don't think they know what to do with Jade.
I'm not sure either. I know, I've heard...
I think that they thought that she was a lot better than she was. And that kind of like put a hold on things.
She did look pretty decent in the Rumble. I mean, it's a small sample size, but she didn't look out of place.
Well, no, but it's much easier to look really good in a ring where there's a lot of women, and it's just one-on-one, though.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that, but... I keep hearing people are projecting the match for Mania to be Nia and Jade Cargill. I personally have a lot more interest in Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill.
I have more faith in Bianca than Nia Jax. I don't trust Nia Jax to not hurt somebody. Because I literally said one day, oh, Nia Jax hasn't hurt anybody recently. And then she literally, that's whenever she, like, broke Becky's nose. Yeah. So, like, I just don't know how I feel about Nia Jax yet.
I know you're very conflicted when it comes to her.
I am.
But
yes.
Yeah, those are our world title pictures heading into Mania. I think both world title pictures are pretty solid. And I'm excited to see where the story goes. I'm excited to see if Rollins stays kind of in this bloodline story, if he's going to support Cody. I keep hearing people push for a tag match, Elimination Chamber of Rock and Roman against Rollins and Cody. I'll take some of that.
Yeah.
I'll take some of that piece, because literally with Seth's injury and Rock getting gassed, Roman and Cody can carry that match. It could be a nice little preview of what's to come at Mania. But yeah, good stuff. After the note that I left WWE on last week, I'm pretty happy with where we're sitting right now. All right, so switching gears over to NXT. On Sunday of last week, so a week from whenever you're seeing this video, they had their Vengeance Day event, which was pretty fun. The major news story, the major fallout that came from Vengeance Day was that Carmelo Hayes, in kayfabe, turned out to be the piece of shit we all suspected him to be. He turned his back on Trick, completely obliterated his leg, enough to where Trick wasn't even on TV this week. And it definitely feels like that we're kind of pushing towards maybe at Stand and Deliver having a triple threat of Trick, Ilya, and Carmelo.
Yeah.
But with that being said, NXT kind of feels like it's in a weird spot for some people right now because you've got Carmelo doing this, but Carmelo's also been on SmackDown, and he's kind of been a face on SmackDown, so I don't know if SmackDown's going to address anything with Melo. They didn't this week. Granted, SmackDown this week was packed. SmackDown flew by. I felt like SmackDown was like 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Like, it was pretty quick moving. But they didn't
I think it felt more like an hour and a half.
Well, whatever. Well, still, for you, it felt short. And then on the other side, you had Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin win the Dusty Cup by beating Trick and Melo, which kind of set the whole night off there. But Braun has been pursued by people on the main roster because he was on SmackDown asking Triple H advice about what contract to take. They're definitely teasing that Breaker's going to be a Paul Heyman guy, which I think would be really good. I don't necessarily know that Braun Breaker needs the help with his promos, but I don't think having Paul Heyman in his corner is going to hurt him in any way.
Yeah.
Especially that'll give Paul Heyman something to move to once the bloodline folds in on itself.
Yeah. I just don't think about it when I see him on both places. Mm-hmm. I don't really... I don't think about what's going to happen. I don't really... Mm-hmm. Let whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, and maybe this is how this is going to be moving forward. Maybe we do a soft introduction from NXT so people can get them on their screen, figure out who they are.
I mean, it's a good way to get people to watch NXT.
It is for you to be like, oh, who's this guy? And then they pump up his match on NXT. And you're like, oh, well, I'll go see what he's about. Yeah. And if you haven't seen what Braun Breaker's about, you should, because that dude is a unit. That dude he's one of the fastest wrestlers I've ever seen for his size. Nathan Frazier is the fastest wrestler I've ever seen. Yeah. But for somebody Braun Breaker's size, I've never seen anybody faster. Mm-hmm. He's like Goldberg mixed with like...
good wrestling.
Yeah.
Skill.
Yeah. Somewhere Bret Hart's smiling. But yeah.
I don't like Goldberg.
He is. Like Breaker is fast and he's talented. He's really fun to watch. I have enjoyed the hell out of watching Braun Breaker wrestle for the last year.
Yeah, I know you have.
And his spear, he has a shirt that says best spear in the business. I 100% believe it's true. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so there's a lot of fallout from Vengeance Day. The women side of Vengeance Day, Lyra Valkyria is still your champion. Roxanne Perez, I think, is about one bad day from just exploding. Because she's just wanting to murder anybody she can find.
Roxanne Perez is somebody that, like, I want off of NXT. Mm-hmm. Like, put her on the main roster. I'm so tired of seeing her go after the title again and again and again. Mm-hmm. So just move her up already.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, you and I talked about this before, where we feel like sometimes when people lose their title in NXT, their wheels are spinning a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because we were used to, if you lost the title, that meant this was your call-up time. Because usually if they lost a title, you could count on them appearing at the next Raw after a major pay-per-view event. So I can see where you're coming from with that. The one exception that I will say that I thought that was going to happen to, that it hasn't, is Carmelo Hayes. I think they actually made the right call keeping him in NXT a little bit longer to let him kind of... Because he's still chasing the title, which does feel played out. But the way that he turned on Trick and his explanation kind of makes sense that he would still drive for it. He's obsessed with being at the top.
Yeah.
And I think that triple threat, if we do get a triple threat, I think it'll slap, and I think they'll end up crowning Trick. I think they'll crown Trick, and I think Melo and Ilya will both go to the main roster. I think Melo will go to SmackDown. I think Ilya will go to Raw and start fucking with Gunther. Mm-hmm. I think that's what will happen. I think that's what should happen.
Well, what else happened from the fall? The only thing that I can really think of is Trick and Carmelo.
That was the big thing. Yeah. That was the big thing. Dragon Lee fought Obafemi. I don't really remember much about it, but I think I was also like putting away food when it happened. I heard the match was good. I kind of feel bad that I didn't watch it because I like both of those guys, but sometimes you have to adult.
Hey, it's okay. It was just one match you missed.
Yeah,
it's all fine.
And it's not like I can't go back on Peacock and find it if I really want to.
It's not like they're going to actually know you put away food instead of watching their match.
I know. But that and the other thing we had was the mixed tag between OTM and the family.
I do not care for OTM.
Yeah, OTM doesn't really check a lot of boxes for me. I think they're talented. I think they're good wrestlers. They just don't do a lot for me. They're like Gallus. Like
they're very boring.
I understand the talent, but it's just they don't really do anything for me.
No.
And I don't think Jada Parker adding Jada Parker and scripts has really helped that much.
No,
they're just not an act that I really get behind, and you have that sometimes.
And it's just if I wanted to do something related to Grand Theft Auto, I would play the game. Mm-hmm. Like I don't need to have the characters come to life.
Yeah.
Like
you're not the only one I've seen say that. I've seen people comment, like literally during an OTM match, they're like, I don't really want to watch this match as much as just go play Grand Theft Auto.
You know, why don't we not have like somebody that's a Sim or somebody that's Mario or Luigi? Like, why not have that?
You'd love the 90s.
No, I wouldn't because I like skill.
Oh.
No offense.
That's a little harsh. There were some dudes in the 90s that could go. Michaels came from the 90s.
I understand that.
Hart was in the 90s.
I understand that. However, if you look back on like the Hulk Hogan's, like, I don't know any other wrestlers. I can't think of any other wrestlers. But even you have said that it wasn't the skill back then. It was the gimmick.
It wasn't the... Okay, let me rephrase this a little bit. Let me try to work this argument a little bit better. It's a little more fair. It wasn't about work rate.
Right.
It was more about character and presentation. Right. In that sense,
yeah,
Hulk Hogan probably was one of their top talents.
Yes. But I like skill with...
You like a little bit of work rate with your drama.
I do. Yeah. I do. Mm-hmm. So, like...
But you don't like too much work rate. That's why you don't really gravitate to Bret Hart, but you like Bryan Danielson, because Bryan Danielson brings a little bit of that.
I like personality with it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to diss anybody's favorite wrestlers. It's just not my style.
Yeah.
I didn't watch. I mean, I watched wrestling when I was growing up with my grandma, but she was a big Hulk Hogan fan, so I would just root for him. I knew nothing else, so I didn't watch then. Based on what you have told me, and I've seen other people say, it wasn't skill; it was gimmick.
Yeah, it wasn't. So, it wasn't a lot about work rate.
Yes. And that's what I like.
Yeah. Like Michaels and Hart were kind of an anomaly there because Vince was all about finding the biggest dude that could make the biggest impression. Yeah. And the work rate dudes kind of got shuffled down. Yes. Like, that's how it was back then.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that it's not that way now.
Yeah.
But I don't...
LA Knight would fit in perfectly in that time. I'm not saying he can't wrestle. I'm just saying he's much more gimmick than... whatever you were saying, workhorse or whatever you were calling work rate. So, yeah. And
you know that you might have something to that because a lot of people say that a lot of people's detractions with AEW is that they are more about work rate than character.
Yeah. And
I could see that.
Yeah.
But I do think AEW has some standout characters, but I do definitely buy the argument that people say, you know, not every match needs to be a 15-minute work rate match. I agree.
I agree with that also, but I'd much rather see a 15-minute work rate match than a match where there's just gimmick. Like, the skill's not there yet. Like, I'd much rather see the 15-minute. But I like the storylines that WWE has. But we are way off topic. Let's get back on topic.
Yeah, because we were talking about Vengeance Day.
Yes, let's focus back on that.
Well, I think we've covered everything there is to cover with Vengeance Day. I mean, those were the big stories coming out of it. I don't think there's much else going on. I mean, there's stuff going on in NXT, don't get me wrong, but those are kind of the major things that came out of Vengeance Day, moving towards Stand and Deliver. I think there's a lot of background stuff that might go down at Stand and Deliver. Like, I think Chase U might end at Stand and Deliver.
I'm not sure.
But we'll see.
Can we just talk about Chase U and their calendars? I'm thinking a lot of pervy men bought those freaking calendars. Like, the only reason that calendar sold out for Chase U with the girls in it is pervy men buying it. You know that's the case.
I know, I just love that, like, you were like, let's talk about Chase U.
Like, perverts. You only bought it because you thought you could see some vag. Or boobies. That's the only reason.
Man. Oh, man.
But that's really all I have to say about that.
Let's go over to AEW and let's look at their world title pictures. So, this past Dynamite, was a very interesting Dynamite. There was only like 4 matches, and all 4 matches got like a substantial amount of time. And that started with the opening match, which was Swerve and Hangman. They were in their 3rd match. And let me just say, first of all, this Swerve and Hangman feud has been fantastic. I've loved it every step of the way.
Yeah, I'm just ready for it to be over.
I think it will be soon. But I think we're slow burning a double turn here. I think by the time this is all said and done, they're going to turn Swerve fully face, and Hangman Page is going to be full on heel because he's already kind of hinting that way. So he
looks like a heel with his facial hair too.
You hate his mustache, and I think that's done on purpose. I think you're supposed to hate.
I want to punch him in his face with that.
I think that's why the Bucks also came with douche mustaches, if you will. But anyway, they had a match on Dynamite. They had the opening match on Dynamite. Swerve had to beat Hangman in order to get into the title match. So I guess Hangman was the number 1 contender, which I don't understand how that works because Swerve's beating him twice. But okay, yeah. I'll buy. I'll suspend disbelief. So Swerve had to beat him to get in. And we got a time limit draw. And the match was so engrossing. It was a fantastic match. It was so engrossing that I didn't even think about the time limit.
Yeah.
And when the bell rang early, I looked at you and I said, "Oh my God, the time limit." And Swerve looked like he had just lost his shit. Like he started getting up. He's like, no. And he did it a lot cooler than that, but he got on the mic and he does. AEW's kind of done this as like a thing, and even Swerve kind of pointed out, he's like, you know how this goes, 5 more minutes. And Hangman was pretty much like, no, fuck you, you didn't do it, and tried to leave. And Tony Schiavone came in and said that Tony Khan has made it a triple threat at Revolution. So for the world title at Revolution, we have Swerve, Hangman, Samoa Joe, and all I have to say to that, and I don't mean to rhyme, is yeah, let's fucking go with those 3.
And Swerve better win.
I think we crown Swerve. I think we have Swerve. Lex has an opinion, I guess. I guess what we do is we have Swerve pin Hangman. We could protect Joe that way, and we could preserve a one-on-one match later. Because me personally, I'm in the camp. I would love to see Swerve and Joe one-on-one. Mm-hmm. I like Hangman, but I'd like to see that match just one-on-one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you could have Swerve pin Hangman for the title. That gives Joe some beef. We could do that a couple weeks at another Dynamite. But I love how that's shaking out. I feel like right now the world title is really the only title in AEW that has a story based around the title. And the reason I say that is because Orange Cassidy's his group seems to be feuding with the Undisputed Kingdom right now, which I gotta say, the Undisputed Kingdom going from helping turn on MJF, who was at one point the biggest person in AEW before he went out, to now being like in a short segment on Rampage, kind of feels like they really kind of fell off a little bit.
I didn't get that vibe at all.
You didn't?
No.
Okay. I guess they got to do something to buy time till Adam Cole's ready to go and chase the big title. I guess we have to do that. If that results in Adam Cole taking the title off Swerve, I don't know right now if I'll hate that.
But I love Orange Cassidy, so I get that you think Orange Cassidy's like a demotion, but I do not.
No, I'm not saying he's a demotion. I'm saying his, like, the story's kind of, it doesn't feel super cohesive. Like, I don't know. Like, Christian's title, like, Christian right now is feuding with Adam Copeland from afar, because they're kind of separating them for a minute, but they keep lumping them together. But it's not so much about Christian's title, it's more about the go fuck yourself hurt around the world. Mm-hmm. The title just kind of happens to be there. Mm-hmm. I kind of wouldn't mind if we found a way to get the TNT title on someone else, and those two become a non-title feud, but Christian's done so much for the TNT title, I'm not real confident in that statement. Because there for a while, the TNT title felt like, an afterthought. Because it was just hot potatoed, and Christian's really built it back up to be something. He's done great work with that. So, you know what? I'm going to redact my original statement. I don't think Christian Cage should lose that title. I'm going to redact it.
Okay.
But the tag titles, we'll talk about that in a little bit, because that's a whole topic in itself. But yeah, I feel like the world title definitely is the big story in AEW, which probably it should be because it is the world title. Mm. But I think there's so much going into it. The other titles are lacking in story.
Maybe.
Like, look at Toni Storm's title, for example. Toni Storm and Deonna Purrazzo are fighting at Revolution because Deonna Purrazzo just showed up in the company and was like, yeah, I want that.
Yeah.
And that's all it really took. Like, and now we're building the feud. I feel like sometimes Tony does things backwards. He's like, here's the match, but now let's build the feud instead of building the feud to get to the match.
Yeah.
I think that's something that WWE does much better than AEW does.
Well, WWE's also had...
They've had years of practice.
More years.
Yeah, they've had years of practice. And WWE's is more coherent now because...
And WWE has not always been good.
Yeah, I know. And I think it's helped, too, that now you have somebody that's, booking the show that cares about the product and isn't just trying to find a way to fuck the talent.
Yeah.
I think that helps.
Literally.
Yeah.
Females.
Yeah, I think that helps a lot with that.
Yes.
But I'm into the Swerve Hangman Joe storyline. I think you got to crown Swerve.
Yes.
I think it's his time. I think if we didn't crown Ricky Starks when he was hot. I think Ricky Starks has kind of cooled off a little bit in AEW, which is really unfair because Ricky Starks is great. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think you've got to capitalize on Swerve now.
Yeah.
I think
Agreed.
you have to. And Joe's a good transitional champion. Joe is not... how do I put this nicely? I love Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe should not be anchoring your entire company. He serves as a great final boss, but with his injury history and he's a little older. I don't know that if he should be carrying that title around as long as MJF did. I know a lot of people will point to Jericho, but I give Jericho a pass because Jericho carried it so long to help establish it as prestigious. And I think he did a good job with that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think...
I think he's a great champion.
He
deserves
is.
to have a long reign.
He
we'll
is.
differ on that one.
He is. And
if it wasn't against Swerve, I would want Joe to win. I just feel like it's Swerve's time.
Yeah, I think if you weren't doing Swerve now, and you had, I don't want to say lesser opponents, but maybe people that weren't as hot as Swerve that you could heat up to make them believable for Joe, you could give him a title for 6 months.
Yeah.
But I think you got to crown Swerve now while the crowd's behind it.
I agree.
So speaking of Ricky Starks cooling down, I know you and I both kind of traded a look after this happened. So Sting and Darby wrestled Big Bill and Ricky Starks in the main event of Dynamite for the AEW tag titles. And Sting and Darby won. First of all...
Congrats to Sting. It's not that I'm upset that Sting won a title.
No, that's not it at all.
I mean, he is, 50s? But
I just feel
it is Sting.
I feel like, and this is, you can call me a poo-poo if you want. I watched Sting wrestle since I was a kid. I love Sting. But Ricky Starks and Big Bill really survived a lot to drop the title to Sting and Darby.
And Sting's retiring in a month.
And this definitely feels like a vehicle to just get those titles back on the Young Bucks. So I definitely think the Young Bucks are going to beat Sting and Darby at Revolution. I figured they were going to anyway.
If I am thinking of their win from personal view, it's awesome because Sting gets a title in AEW. It goes on the records. Darby gets a title with the person he's been tagged with this whole time. It just creates a fun. It's a fun thing, but fan wise, I don't like it.
Yeah, I think this is something that we should have maybe. Honestly, you know what I would have done? I think I would have had Sting and Darby win these 3 months ago. And then and I know Sting chose the Young Bucks. I understand that. And that's fine. That's Sting's choice. It's his retirement match. I'm not here to tell Sting what to do. Absolutely not here to tell Sting what to do. But I think we should have waited and Ricky Starks and Big Bill could have been that match at Revolution. And they could have taken the titles then.
Yeah.
And gone forward with them.
Yeah.
But it was Sting's choice. So Tony had to pivot. And one thing that we've learned about Tony Khan, he's not the best at pivoting a story. Because it actually came out that the Bucks came back early. They were supposed to be off longer. And Sting wanted them, so they had to rush back. So if all of this with the Young Bucks feels kind of rushed a little bit, that's probably an indication of why. I know a lot of people will take an opportunity to shit on the Bucks no matter what.
And I will say, I don't dislike the Bucks. I'm not their biggest fan. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle with them. I like them. Sometimes I think their matches look too sloppy, that kind of thing. But they did look pretty awesome with the blood all over them from Sting and Darby.
Yeah, Yeah,
I will agree with I will agree with that one. I will say that one. And I am not the biggest. I am not like the biggest Bucks fan.
No,
I critique them often.
What's funny is a lot of people think that you're a big Bucks fan because you're so critical of CM Punk, and they're two different animals.
Yeah.
You have your reasons for critiquing CM Punk have nothing to do with the Bucks.
No.
Like, you have your reasons for that. And I think a lot of people that talk to you get those two things crossed. Like, somebody on the cruise thought that. They thought that because you didn't like Punk, you were a Bucks fan, and you were like, no, that's not the case.
No.
It's just I don't like Punk.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is for you.
Yeah. I've never liked Punk.
Yeah. But
even before he came to AEW, so...
but that's not the only questionable thing AEW's kind of done lately, because this is something you and I share different opinions on this. It's not that I don't enjoy seeing them. It's not that I don't enjoy seeing new talent. Mm-hmm. But with the roster that you have and people already fighting for TV time, when's the last time we saw Miro, for one? Why the hell are CMLL all of a sudden invading AEW? Like, what is the end game with this?
I don't know. I like it. I get to know people I didn't know before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about CMLL. And honestly, that's the game in wrestling. You don't stand up enough. You don't stand out enough. You're not going to get TV time. So...
yeah.
So,
well,
I don't know.
Here's the way I look at it. This CMLL thing, I think I would have been a lot more open to it 4 years ago when AEW had a smaller roster. But now they have so many people on their roster and so many people that aren't even on TV or relegated to Ring of Honor just to keep reps going.
But what you have to keep in mind, though, is that AEW isn't a WWE. It actually plays well with others.
But I think sometimes it's to their detriment.
I like it.
Like, whenever Forbidden Door comes around, Forbidden Door is a great event. There's a lot of great matches, but a lot of AEW stories have to go on ice. It's like when WWE used to do brand versus brand at Survivor Series. A lot of feuds just stopped so we could do red shirts versus blue shirts, and then after, we picked up like nothing happened.
I like it.
I see where you like to see the influx of talent.
Yes.
My issue with it is I think it's detrimental to the stories that you're telling and to the talent that you already signed.
There's not many stories in AEW to affect them. We only have a couple stories going at a time in the wrestlers' matches.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Really?
I'm not saying fair enough that I agree with you. I'm just saying fair enough I see your point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I think with the roster that you have and the trouble that you have getting them on TV as it is, I just don't know that bringing in so many people from another promotion is going to be the answer.
And I'm sure a lot of people agree with you. I'm usually in the minority of my views. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and this isn't us like dumping on AEW. It's just, you have to be critical of both. You have to be fair. Mm-hmm. And this is an area I think AEW struggles with, is they get one or two good stories going and then the rest of it's just kind of filler. So the last thing we want to talk about, so compared to where we ended the video last week, how I felt about WWE and AEW as a whole, this week I've had a pretty good week. Cody's back in the main title picture.
Beloved Cody.
Swerve is in a world title match at Revolution. Mm-hmm. And the last piece of the puzzle, we're full steam ahead with this Bayley damage control business. So you made the comment. I do think
that instead of having Bianca on posters for shit, they need to have Bayley.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. I don't understand why Bianca was advertised at the press conference, because she literally has nothing going on at Mania as of right now.
No.
But I get it. She's one of their faces of the company. She does a lot of their PR stuff.
But Bayley was one of your four horsewomen.
She has a new show.
But Bayley was one of your four horsewomen.
Well, I have a feeling if Bianca wasn't there, Charlotte would be.
True.
Yeah.
True.
But that being said, you even said, and you've liked Damage Control for the most part for their whole run. You even said this is the most interesting Damage Control's been.
Yeah.
Because
you have those three shits that are doing their thing.
Yeah.
Kabuki Warriors and Io.
Yeah.
They're just doing their thing. And then you have Bayley, who I felt so bad for because they were talking about her. And
that's what it is. Bayley's story with Damage Control is so relatable. We've all been in the group and new people show up and we don't feel like we're a part of the group anymore. That's probably the most relatable story that WWE is telling right now.
Yeah.
Like, Cody's is too fantastical for anybody to relate to. But Bayley's, that's 100% genuine human emotion. And Bayley has done really well conveying it. Like using her like Bayley's acting has been really good.
Yeah.
And I'm invested, and I want her to get her revenge, and I want her to succeed. Plus, she spent the whole year eating L's. So, I mean, I think it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's funny because last night I asked you, I said, where the hell's Dakota? And out comes Dakota. And we still aren't quite sure where Dakota stands because Dakota stuck up for Bayley and chased off Damage Control. But Mania is still about a month and a half away. I don't know if I trust Dakota that long.
No, and Dakota is excellent at pulling off a heel swerve on.
Yeah, look at what Dakota did to, if you haven't seen it, look at what Dakota did to Tegan Nox in NXT a couple years ago.
Yeah.
When in the War Games match, remember? Because she was coming out and just,
yeah.
like it was great.
Yes.
It was great. Yeah. Dakota Kai's a really good heel when she gets cooking.
Yeah.
Especially as that you thought she was your friend, but she was just trying to fuck you out of whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah.
She's great at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this Damage Control story has been really good. I'm really excited for that match. I don't think it's going to build to the drama of being a night one main event.
No.
But I do hope that this match gets good placement on the card because I think the story they're telling and the story they've been brewing has been really good, and the crowd was really quick to get behind Bayley.
Yes.
That's what's been so good about WWE being better is the crowds are a lot more willing to get behind the people you want them to get behind because you're telling a story where we can get invested. That's what happened with Cody.
Yeah.
You know, everybody thought, oh, people will pivot when The Rock shows up. Like, nobody's going to boo The Rock in 2024. Like, he's a legend. Cody Rhodes is the one dude that got The Rock booed out of the building. Like, that's saying something.
Yeah.
And that's not just saying something about Cody. That's saying something about the way that you booked him and the way that you've booked your baby faces. That it used to be WWE.
Let's not give WWE all the credit for how well Cody Rhodes is doing. Cody Rhodes went out and did it.
I'm not, but what I'm saying is they've given people time to shine and be more comfortable.
Yeah.
So what it's resulted in is, during the Vince years, during the 2010s, you had John Cena was your main baby face and the kids were behind him and the adults weren't. Now, you're pushing Jey Uso as a good guy, crowd's behind him. You're pushing LA Knight as a good guy, crowd's behind him.
Yeah.
Granted, crowd forced that, but WWE leaned into it, made the right call, and turned him. Cody Rhodes, people get behind him. Chad Gable had people behind him in his match with Gunther. So, when you book good stories and you book it well, the crowd will follow.
Yeah.
We'll follow along with what you want to do. Just don't treat us like an idiot.
You'll have some that are just sole mission in life is just ruin other people's lives. But that happens.
Yeah. I just rewatched The Dark Knight this week. Some men just want to watch the world burn. The wrestling world. But
was that a quote from the movie or something?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That's what they say about Heath Ledger's Joker. That's what Alfred says about him. But anyway.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think that's something that WWE under Triple H is learning, that if the story's good, we'll come along for the ride. Just tell us a good story and don't treat us like an idiot.
Yeah.
That's all we ask. But yeah, so good on them. I think WrestleMania is going to be great. I'm hoping it's not like last year where it's one night of greatness and one night of just okay.
But didn't Vince come back?
Like right in the middle of
over?
it. Yeah, and then he did the Raw After Mania, which a lot of people said was the worst Raw After Mania ever.
So I don't want to hold last year against them because Vince was just terrible.
Yeah, and night one last year was great.
Yeah.
Night one was great. If we get 2 nights of that this year, I think we're talking about a possible all-time Mania. And they were billing that before, the crowd turned and forced Rock out of the main event, before CM Punk got injured. It was still looking like a pretty good Mania, and it's still looking great even with those injuries.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it. WWE's in a boom period right now.
Yeah.
I think if AEW can just tweak some things here and there, I think they could be right there along with them. I think first thing AEW's got to do, they got to get those ticket prices down. They've got to. They've got to.
Ticket prices for their shows.
Yeah. This is no disrespect to AEW, but we should not be paying more to watch AEW and WWE. The same, fine. But not more.
Yeah. Well, anything else that you want to chat about today?
No, I think it's going to cover everything.
All right.
I always get excited around Mania season. Most of the time it ends in disappointment, but this year I'll say I'm cautiously optimistic. I still can't wait to see what direction we take Gunther. I'm interested to see if we go all the way and do an Uso versus Uso match. I love that those two started the Royal Rumble when they kind of gauged how the crowd would feel about that. So yeah, I think WWE is doing a lot of smart things, and I think AEW is on the cusp. I think they just need to make a couple good decisions, and they're right back where they need to be.
Yeah.
But that will cover this week's episode. We will be back next week to see if all the goodwill they built up with me this week has been pissed away next week. We'll see.
Yes.
But, find us on the socials, on Instagram and Facebook at Figures and Flippy S. On our YouTube channel, Figure Flippy S, which you found our YouTube channel if you're watching this. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. It helps the channel, helps engage with us. Leave a comment for something that you have an opinion on or something you want to discuss. But otherwise, we will talk to you guys next week.
Later.
Did you like that video? Like, subscribe, and comment to the Figures and Flippy Shit Wrestling Podcast. Oh, yeah.